When I was 5 years old, I was watching Lassie on TV. I thought she was going to die. I'm sitting there crying. My dad walks through the room. He sees me crying and he laughs at me.
My goodness.
Yeah. What did I do at 5 years old? What was the decision I made? I decided to never cry again. And I didn't.
Mental health champions. I'm excited for today. We're bringing on someone who has so much passion in the mental health field. Deborah will be sharing her story, along with working over 10,000 dying veterans she took care of as a VA hospice nurse practitioner for 30 years. If anyone wants to learn how to achieve inner peace, she says asks a veteran who has successfully struggled to find it for the rest of their lives after they return from war. So a lot of clarity and lessons she's learned over that journey. She now helps others with their self-worth, provides these amazing workshops all around the world. So Deborah, welcome to A Mental Health Break.
Well, thank you, Vincent. I appreciate your value of mental health, number one, and knowing and providing your audience with tools to help achieve that.
Appreciate the kind words, and I'm excited to bring your tools forward right here on A Mental Health Break. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and keeping the show in the top 5% of global podcasts. I'm so thankful for you, so thankful for our amazing guests, and of course, everyone who has supported us along the way. Remember, everyone, you are never alone. We are providing you with a new resource and advocate today. She has so much, as I said, to offer, plus a new book that may be perfect for you. But we're going back in time a bit, Deborah. When did you know you wanted to work in this space, work in mental health?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, first I wanted to be a nurse, and I was a nurse for probably around 10 years doing oncology work, and it fascinated me how people approached cancer. Some would fight it, and some would just succumb, and some navigated this narrow path between the reality of it and the hope of it. And so that's really what first piqued my interest about mental health. Was I saw that so commonly, those three patterns. And that's when I decided to go back and get my master's degree in psychiatry and became a psychiatric nurse practitioner. And from oncology work, that evolved into doing hospice work. And so, yes, over my 30-year career, I took care of more than 10,000 dying veterans. I took care of a lot more veterans than that, but 10,000 dying veterans. And, dying people are fertile ground for healing. The day before you're given a terminal diagnosis, you pretty much take your life for granted. The day after, you wake up, and you wake up to realize that your life matters and that you matter. And so that's what I was privileged to sit at bedside and bear witness to as people, really look back over their life. That's a common thing that happens as we age, and it especially happens as you're approaching, the end of your life. You have to kind of make peace with your past, and that's often when regrets surface. You have to make peace with the present. I mean, think about the present moment where everything is threatened. Your very existence is threatened. And you have to make peace with the future, which is a very different future. However your spiritual concepts are, your existence is going to be very different than what you're used to and what you're familiar with. So, at any rate, as I said, and the veterans, many of the veterans that I had taken care of had been traumatized. They had all been trained for war. And so it always seemed so paradoxical to me that these people who had been trained for war, when they came back out of the military and they successfully navigated that path after war. And I'm going to tell you that I think it takes in many ways even more courage to navigate that path. And when they do that successfully, I mean, they achieve a type of peace that drew my respect, my admiration, and my desire not only to serve them, but my desire to learn from them and my desire to incorporate what they knew into my head and then work toward taking it into the wilderness of my soul so that I could truly achieve it and then live it and dwell from that space. And that's a different space than just the talk or the knowledge in our head. So
Love everything
that's
you
how I
said. Oh my gosh.
that's how
You
I came.
have done a lot and you've helped so many people. You teased there before a lot of trauma. You're helping people get through trauma, especially at different points of their lives. What are some tips you could provide to our audience? Maybe some ways you help others move past trauma so they can try it on their own.
Yeah, well, what the veterans really taught me was something that's a bit different than trauma. I mean, when they first started talking about trauma and what have you, and I saw a lot of PTSD, and a lot of times PTSD becomes unmasked at the end of life. So I saw a lot of that, and that can truly complicate peaceful dying. But a lot of times they talk to me about something else. And you mentioned, I think, earlier in the introduction about self-worth. What I noticed was sometimes the trauma impacted their self-worth, how they saw themselves, their self-identity, their self-image. And every now and then, but I heard it commonly enough, they would call it a soul injury. Soul was broken or that their, soul was wounded, that type of thing. But when I really looked at what it was, when I really listened over, several years it took, what I realized was they had a broken relationship with themselves. So, and they called it a soul injury. So the work that I did was to help people heal the relationship they had with themselves. So sometimes, a lot of times trauma does not destroy your self-identity, but a lot of times it does. So in that regard, it is how when the trauma causes you to have scattered pieces of self, and that's often what it is, and our fear of emotional pain, our fear of being triggered causes people to compartmentalize these pieces of self. So what's the task? The task at hand is to re-own each of those pieces of self, acknowledge that they're there, say, hey, instead of trying to avoid you and exile you into unconsciousness, let's talk, let's get to know each other. So you re-own that part, each piece of self. Then what do you have to do? You have to rehome that piece of self. In other words, you have to make your own sense of self safe for that scattered piece of self to come back home. Because mostly we say, well, I don't want to feel you. I don't want to look at you. Get out of here. Stay in unconsciousness. And that's how our lives get sabotaged. Now, I want to be really, really clear, though, that as much as this is so beneficial for people with trauma, more commonly, people acquire a soul injury insidiously. Something happens in childhood, and sometimes it can be a very innocuous something that someone says. The example I often give in my own story is that when I was 5 years old, I was watching Lassie on TV. I thought she was going to die. I'm sitting there crying. My dad walks through the room. He sees me crying and he laughs at me.
My goodness.
Yeah. What did I do at 5 years old? What was the decision I made? I decided to never cry again. And I didn't for 30 years. 30 years. I became ashamed of the Deborah that felt sad, exiled her. So when I was 35 and I was dealing with something painful, it suddenly, I don't know, I kind of woke up and I thought, what if my fear of emotional pain is worse than if I just let myself feel it? And that's when I cried for the first time in 30 years. And that's when my unfreezing began. And that's when I became real. So when we talk about soul injury, the way we define it and the way we have researched it is this. Soul injury is a wound that separates you from your real self. And your real self is not some perfect, idealized person. It's not, we're always being cajoled into be the best version of yourself. And yes, and get to know the worst version and every version in between because they're all real. They
Right.
all have energy. They are all existing in you. So don't just put on a pedestal the best version of who you can be. Also bring out of the dark, out of the unconscious, the worst version and get to meet, because I'm telling you, if you bring out your worst version, what are you going to find? You're going to find a hurt self. Opus Peace is our nonprofit that is working to educate people about soul injury. Who's our target audience? Our target audience is hurting people. People who hurt other people are hurting people. That's what hurt people do. We hurt other people, we hurt ourselves. So we all are hurting people, and it's about releasing the fear of emotional pain so that that part of self that's courageous and brave enough to hold that pain doesn't have to be exiled into unconsciousness. So we say that there are 3 causes of soul injury. The first is unmourned loss and hurt. 2, unforgiven guilt and shame. And 3, fear of helplessness and loss of control. So you peel back the layers of how we get kind of lost within ourselves. We don't really know what's going on or what that, and I guarantee you'll find one of those 3 things has exiled a part of self out into unconsciousness, and it's kind of tapping at the door, saying, I'm here. And what do? We go, oh no, get away. I don't like you. Instead of saying, hey, gosh, I see you. Don't know if I really want you, but I'm willing to give it a try. Let's sit down and have a talk. So, and our tools that we do are basically designed to help each of us abide with those parts of self.
Thank you for all the work you're doing. Everyone out there, you can turn your pain into happiness and a lot of great things in life. We're witnessing great proof today. I mean, my show notes are already kind of filled up and we're only about halfway done. Realizing your life matters, making peace with the present and future. I loved that. Ways to work through that trauma. What are soul injuries? The causes. And I love how you, Anne-Marie, shared, overcoming that childhood pain. And now look at you making a huge difference with Opus Peace. I want to not breeze past too far. You've got a book to go with all this great stuff, right? So let's dive into your book because it is a mental health book right here on a mental health break. She's going to be on Writing with Authors. That's right. Soul injury. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's been a long endeavor that's finally come to fruition after putting it off and putting it off. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for wanting to feature it.
Of course. Why don't you give us a little preview to the book? What can we expect if we pick this book up?
Well, certainly all the concepts of soul injury and the tools and how to apply the tools with yourself and with others. It's filled also with appendices, which really are, there's a lot of stories to inspire people, real life stories from people. And yeah, so it's pretty comprehensive. And we actually are starting a book community in just a couple of weeks in August, where we're doing a book community where it'll be for 8 weeks and going through the book as a virtual community. So I'd love to have people join us for that.
I think that's going to be great. I can't wait to see it come to life. For the next time we're back on the show, we hear about all the great updates and how it's grown. And now I want to ask you for some more advice here. If you can give any piece of advice to someone who's struggling today, really having a tough go with it, what can you offer them?
Well, the first tool that we call it anchor your heart. So the first thing, well, anyway, actually, let me do it with you, Vincent.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm asking you really just to be real. Now, you may not be in turmoil like the speculative person you're describing, but just being real. I want you just to take a moment, lower or close your eyes, and then place one or both hands on your heart, whatever feels comfortable to you. And I want you to take 3 deep breaths, breathing deeply. And now release the breath and just breathe normally. And without changing the rhythm of your breath, I want you to notice the pause between breaths, space after the exhalation and before the next inhalation, noticing the stillness between. Release your attention from the breath. Focus on getting real with yourself. To sincerely feel whatever you are feeling right now, or whatever you're trying not to feel. Notice that. Just notice what's going on in your heart, not in your head, giving permission for your heart to open to whatever it's feeling. What it's supposed to feel, but what it's really feeling, becoming fully present to yourself. Now let yourself become still and just linger for a moment in this brave place inside you. that is not afraid of your emotional pain, and it's also not afraid of your goodness and beauty. So let yourself become curious about connecting with your human beingness, this place where your real self, this place that knows that you matter, that knows that your life matters. And now take one more deep breath and bring this brave space with you, bringing that sense of self with you as you slowly open your eyes, being fully present to this moment of together.
Thank you for sharing this with our audience, and thank you for everything you've brought forward today. I sure am feeling a whole lot more relaxed after that. As we're winding up here,
Well, I
what
was
are
just going to say, so
okay?
going back to you have someone who's struggling and really feeling anxious and angry and what have you, I would do that and say, connect with that anger, connect with that hurt. It's not just about, that's the irony, is that when you get real with whatever is there, instead of trying to shove it aside, peace comes because you externalize that. So, anyway, that would be the first thing I would do with someone, is say, let's just get real with yourself. You can choose to share that with me or not, but you don't want to be real. Facades work great in untrustworthy environments. You want to have a facade in an untrustworthy environment. The problem is people think that their facade is them. That's who they are. Then they end up living a counterfeit life. And then they come to the end of their life and look back and go, oh my gosh, I wasn't living a life that was authentic, that was truly mine.
hmm
I was
I
living someone else's dream.
Yeah, I can certainly resonate with that before I got into entrepreneurship. And I think that's a great message even here as we're winding out here. Be true to yourself, be authentic, and that will bring you happiness there. What are you looking forward to the rest of the summer? Deborah, I know you got to have something going on over there.
We do. Well, for those in your audience that live in Florida, St. Petersburg College does a free all day. We do a free all day workshop on soul injury for anyone in the state of Florida. So if any of you have a company, all you have to do is be able to provide us with a room. And St. Petersburg College has the grant that we'll put on an all day soul injury workshop live for the audience. So that's one
Amazing.
thing. We also do a 4-day training that we call our Opus Peace Institute for Soul Injury. It's a leadership training for personal growth and healing, and also to be able to take the message out. That's over 4 weeks, 1 day each week, starting in October, the last 2 weeks in October and the first 2 weeks in November, 1 day each week for the day. And people at the end get a jump drive that they can, with about 17 different in-services and videos that they can share with others, with the facilitators, guides, and everything. But it is dramatic, the transformation that often happens with that. And as I said, we have a book community that starts, I believe it's August 5th, for 8 weeks, where they will
Amazing.
be doing the soul injury book, and as a community, which really builds a sense of belonging and safety. I mean, one of the things that I think in so many ways in our modern society, right, and especially right now with all the chaos, is that sense of safety and security where I can be real. And that's one of the things that we do at Opus Peace, is provide that. If I was going to summarize, we do have a vision at Opus Peace, and our vision is this. So think about this kind of affirmation, and it's this: cultivate in me the willingness to reown, rehome, and revitalize scattered pieces of myself so wholeness can be restored. Grow in me the honesty, courage, and humility to release my fear of who I am and who I am not. Fuel me with your grace.
Wow.
So that's the vision. That's the opening of the book. I'll read you the opening paragraph of chapter 1.
Great. Thank you for sharing that.
Is that all right? Is that all
Of
right?
course. I think the audience will love that.
All right. Here's the opening paragraphs. Everything I've learned that has really mattered, I learned from the dying. Perspectives shift dramatically as death approaches. The day before you're given a terminal diagnosis, you take your life for granted. The day after, you wake up. Things you thought were so important now seem insignificant. Things that had been escaping your attention suddenly thrust themselves forward with an urgency to complete. That is the gift that death is. Just the threat of it awakens you to what is important and what is not. These revelations can be as tumultuous as an earthquake or as quiet and penetrating as a gentle snow that visited you overnight. But the stark realization causing the reverberation is the same. You are struck with the abrupt realization of how your life matters and how you matter. There's a reason this realization surfaces with stunning clarity when a serious diagnosis arises. People become real very quickly when their existence is threatened. Everything shifts. Unvarnished truth emerges. Timidly at first, more boldly over time. Carefully crafted facades now crumble. We are stripped of our arrogance and cover-ups. Death is like that. It beckons us to come back home to ourselves without any pretenses.
Thank you so much for sharing that, everyone. I've got to now first thank her so much for taking the time to join us here on a mental health break as we're closing out July. Now, in case people aren't in the St. Pete area, if they want to get in touch with you, learn with you, work with you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, opuspeace.org, opuspeace.org, or soulinjury.org, either one, and there's a contact us button. We also have all of our courses online so that you can go, there's another whole area for courses. That's our Masterpiece online program where you can get soul injury programs of every different kind. We're getting ready to start a research project on sexual violence and its impact with soul injury. But at any rate, yeah, there's a lot of articles, a lot of free videos. All the videos of our courses, the first lesson of each course is free. So I would encourage them. And there's a lot of learning just to survey and meander through. Take your time, and we really appreciate that. And you can order the book online as well there.
All right, everyone. You go reach out to her, get in her network. She's a great resource for you. And my name is Vincent A. Lancy. Thanking you so much for tuning in to another episode here on a mental health break and keeping this show a top 5% global series. I'm excited to help keep normalizing the conversation around mental health with great guests like Deborah today. And with that, we're signing off today, both of us in the Florida area. Deborah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Vincent. Thank you for your work, and thank you to your audience for taking their time and interest to participate as well.
All right, everyone, take care, and I'll see you right here next week on a mental health break.